Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, it's me Gamerturk, and today we're gonna talk about the endings of Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. Before we begin, let me tell you this video will contain spoilers for the two bad endings of the game, so if you don't want spoilers, I recommend clicking away. With that out of the way, I do not like the endings of Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet all that much. This has been extremely sad for me considering I actually expected this one to have the most personal and emotional ending in the Gameverse canon. There is no perfect game out there, don't get me wrong, you can always find things that you do not enjoy in games. But Fatal Bullet endings have fundamental storytelling flaws that go beyond a simple nitpick. Should these flaws not existed, even though not having a story until the third act, this game could simply have been the best. And in this video, I'm going to fix the Kureha and Zeliska endings to do just that and give you an idea as to how it could have been unforgettable instead. Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet was heavily advertised to be a game where our choices would have consequences, and what's so good about these kinds of games is that since you make your own decisions, the weight of the outcome falls onto you, the player himself. It's one of the greatest ways of presenting a very personal story. Sadly, while the game offers you a single choice for the bad ending, the choice you make is not really a deciding factor when it comes to the consequences. And I will talk about a true ending not even having a single choice and even more stuff when I talk about that specific ending, but as I said, that will be an entirely different video. For now, I am sticking to the Kureha and Zeliska endings. Now let me say that I actually prefer the bad endings more than the true ending of Fatal Bullet. Bad endings are more action-packed and more relatable than what the true ending offers you, but the major glaring issue remains. You see, for the bad endings, at the start of the chapter, Arphasis will ask if you want to fight Deathgun, and you will simply answer by saying you will fight for protecting either Kureha or Zeliska, and the person you do not pick dies as a result. On a surface level, yeah, it's a pretty good idea. You did choose one character over the other, and now the one you didn't pick dies, leaving the weight of her death on your shoulders. But in reality, it actually doesn't, no, because the choice is not implemented well into the story. You see, your quote-unquote pick is not really a pick from a storytelling perspective, it's literally a pick for the machine to know which girl to keep alive. While the options are fight for Kureha or fight for Zeliska inside the game, your choice does not matter at all. Your protagonist does not fight for either of the two. The protagonist just fights. The death of Zeliska does not happen because you tried protecting Kureha, or Kureha does not die because you tried saving Zeliska. In either cases, you fall down after an attack and they die because the character you didn't pick chooses to sacrifice herself to save you. And this is where the promise of your choice absolutely breaks apart. It is ultimately Kureha's or Zeliska's choice to sacrifice themselves to save you, and that is a huge problem from a storytelling perspective. And for this issue, I actually have two solutions that would have given actual meaning to our choice by directly tying our decision with an action our protagonist makes that results in the same outcome. But now it comes to fruition because of an active choice we make rather than a choice the NPCs make. Scenario 1 is a predictable one, very similar to the current execution. The only difference being the protagonist taking an active part in the outcome. In this predictable scenario, you will make the same decision, but there will be more dialogue in the final chapter, making it very clear to all the characters who your priority is. If you choose to protect Kureha, the cutscene or the dialogues in the chapter will make it very clear that you will do whatever necessary to save Kureha. And seeing that, Zeliska sacrifices herself to ensure you get to bring back Kureha, which would result in a farewell scene like this. And for the choice of Zeliska, where Kureha sacrifices herself, it becomes something like this. The simple change of a single sentence here takes the weight of the sacrifice decision from the NPC side and puts it directly onto the choice we made going into the battle, effectively making it an outcome that we created ourselves based on our decision. In this scenario, Zeliska dies because she saw who we ultimately cared about and sacrificed herself for our happiness. Or on the other side, Kureha sacrifices herself because she saw that we ultimately wanted to save Zeliska and decided to make her ideal of making a difference in the world a reality by making our wish come true. This would effectively make our quote-unquote choice lead to the NPCs making the decision of sacrificing themselves to fulfill our wish, rather than the other randomly deciding to sacrifice herself just to save us. Scenario 2, on the other hand, is much less predictable and plays itself directly on the emotions of the player themselves, which I find to be a more effective way of actually impacting the player with a twist or kind of a betrayal. So it suffices to say that this plays completely different than the sacrifice scenario. Now, we know for a fact that the entire situation was created by Itsuki to get our attention, where he himself planned to take a hit for the protagonist to prove how much he cared for them. So, going by this logic, the assumption would be that the boss is actually programmed to focus on the protag at certain crucial points, so Itsuki can eventually come in, maybe go ahead and use a personal shield matrix on the protag instead of himself, and thus saving them via sacrificing himself. And now, let's imagine that we pick fight to protect Kureha. So based on this choice, we actually stand close to her, stand by her to make sure we defend her properly, since at that point in the story, we do not have the knowledge that the boss would focus on us on certain moments. During the general course of the fight, naturally, everybody takes the aggro of the boss from time to time. At one point, where Kureha is getting attacked, she barely avoids an attack and falls down with low HP, similar to how we fell down in the original scenario. Having chosen to protect Kureha, we rush in for help to get her back up, at which point the programming of the boss kicks in. We switch to the boss's perspective like in the original cutscene, seeing from its perspective as it suddenly switches its highlight from Kureha to the protag with a small subtitle on its screen, subroutine activate, savior focusing on the player X whatever, unleashing a brand new devastating attack. Not knowing the attack patterns of the boss, protag assumes it's a single target attack and stands by to block it in order to save Kureha, at which point we get a glimpse of Itsuki since he realizes the programming kicked in and is very well aware what is going to happen. The boss blasts the attack, the camera cuts to a close-up of us, the protagonist, losing about 90% of our HP. With a sigh of relief, we turn around to see Kureha, and at that point we see the after effects and realize the attack was actually an area of effect attack, as we watch the character we chose to save loses the remaining HP in front of our eyes. We get a brief moment of closure as Kureha thanks us for all the memories we had together and shatters into polygons right then and there. And this is where it actually gets even better, because if you're playing through the scenario for the first time, while the small hints are there, you don't really know yet that this is an intentional behavior from the boss. As the player, you assume it just used an attack on the already down Kureha's direction as your regular boss behavior, and you know, you just couldn't save her because it was an area of effect attack. But then, when Itsuki opens up after the boss fight, he talks about how he asked Taipan to program the boss to specifically focus on protag in crucial moments, and we learned that the boss used its devastation attack near Kureha because it was targeting us and we were standing right in front of Kureha. This scene is followed by our character finally deciding to show some emotion for once and actually get angry, but remains at a cliffhanger as the system shuts down per the original ending, and we return to GGO as anger leaves its place to sorrow. And Kirito of course goes on vaguely about how he was in similar situations before with Diavel and Sachi, where his hesitation directly caused the deaths of multiple people. While such a twist actively betrays the intention of the player, hits extremely close to the heart because our actions are at a direct fault for the loss of the one person we ultimately wanted to protect. it's just an incredibly grim ending for us, and considering it is the non-canon bad ending route of the game, I would actually prefer a really dark and grim ending for that finale. But hey, that's just my personal opinion. How do you feel about the current bad endings of Fatal Bullet? How do you feel about the scenarios I provided here? At this point, I feel like the Sword Art Online Gameverse needs to be a little less predictable, needs to trust its audience to handle proper emotions, and let's be honest, be a little bit less perfect in terms of a universe. Not every story needs to have a perfect happy ending, since it's actually sadness in life that makes the happy moments shine more than ever. To go more in depth on that, I'm actually planning on a short series of videos based on the Sword Art Online Gameverse, and this was actually the first video of that series. Next up, I'll be talking about the true ending of Fatal Bullet and how that one significantly falls short. If you're watching this in the future, after that video has already been uploaded, you can probably click on the icon on the upper right corner to watch that. I will also talk about other issues the Sword Art Online Gameverse has, such as an actual burnout of threats, since no threat actually ever paid off in the game so far, or how the cast keeps growing and growing and currently has doubled the main canon, which is yet another huge issue. But all for that, for the future, along with my ultimate review on Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet, and of course my coverage on Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online anime, so subscribe and hit that bell icon to get notified on those videos. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, feel free to like and share, supporting my channel over there at patreon.com/Gamerturk, and by sponsoring to me on YouTube Gaming helps me create more content like this. You can also find me on facebook.com/Gamerturk and on Twitter at Gamerturk95, and until next time, take care.